Hopefully you can see my screen. I've got the final bill report from Laura. Thank you so much for putting that out last night. And I went ahead and highlighted with a yellow highlighter here the bills that have already passed through both chambers and have been enrolled and are in a position to be sent to the governor for his signature. So first on the list, again, these are ordered by activity, action, not necessarily by interest, although environmental protection is arguably the most interesting environmental bill this year, probably by any measure. This is the one that we talked about a couple of weeks ago that has a bunch of different things in there. Something to note is, since we went through the Broder version of environmental protection 1632, it was laid on the table, which means the House version was substituted for the Senate version and adopted by both chambers. Also, this past week, a couple of other environmental related bills were also laid on the table, or I guess a better way of saying it would be to say that they were amended on to 1379. So this became an even larger train bill. The kind of substantive description of the things that got added were the bills that prioritized the acquisition of additional lands for the wildlife corridor, which was a priority of the Senate president. So what you have here now in 1379, which again was voted through favorably by both chambers and enrolled, is all of the environmental provisions from Broder's bill that we talked about a few weeks ago. That's all the septic tank changes and lots of other things, plus the land acquisition for the wildlife corridor. So quite a big bill. At your leisure, maybe some light weekend reading. If you want to skim through that, I'm sure you will find something interesting in there for you. I think it's up to 95 pages, so it's not a terribly long read. Okay, so moving right along, 1343, it did have some activity this week. However, it's not yet through the process. So it had an amendment in the House. So it has been passed through the Senate, but then had another amendment at the House and then was sent back to the Senate in messages yesterday. So the Senate does have an opportunity to take that up and pass it today. So it would be an 11th hour bill. This was in here for Land Development Committee more than environmental. There's some things in here about special assessments on ag classified lands and some exemptions from local government issues. So anyway, just take a look at that if that's something of interest to you. Going back into bills that have already passed, so 7002 is the ratification of the DEP wastewater rule and septic tank rule. So that's all the way through, waiting for governor's signature. Excuse me, it's enrolled. It technically hasn't been presented to the governor yet for signature. It's just been enrolled, which just means it's done with House and Senate approval. Land use and development regulations is not yet through. I believe, yeah, it's in messages. No, forgive me. I'm sorry. I somehow missed this one. This is also already passed both chambers. Again, this is more of a local government land regulation, planning and zoning and plan amendment process bill, highlighted here for the Land Development Committee. Here's 1632. This is the companion to 1379. That's passed, of course. Vessel regulations also passed and is through both chambers. So this bill, we didn't really spend a lot of time talking about it. It has a few things for folks that care more about marine development, marine permitting and development. There's some provisions for boat restricted areas, for sewage pump out stations. I'm just reading here from the bill summary. I won't pretend to be an expert on it. There's a floating vessel platform provision in here. So again, this is passed through. We'll head to the governor's desk at some point. Local government, again, these are more for land development than environmental. There's the vessel companion bill that we just talked about. Seagrass Restoration Technology Initiative did pass. So this is to establish a 10-year Florida seagrass restoration plan and establish as a seagrass restoration initiative or task force. So again, if this is something that you care about, go ahead and take a look. There's the companion here. The Flooding and Sea Level Rise Vulnerability Study Bill did pass. If this is your bag, then go ahead and take a look at this. Not a ton of stuff in here. This is not the one that raises the height, the ceiling height, if you raise the floor height. This is more about the studies, vulnerability studies, and I believe it's a slight enlargement of eligibility of different types of requirements. Did y'all just lose my screen?
Yes.
All right. Again, take a look at that. If you're doing vulnerability studies for clients, that's the House and Senate version that's passed. So the next one is use of phosphogypsum. So this is a DOT study to consider demonstration projects and a study on utilizing phosphogypsum as an aggregate. Again, that's passed. If this is something you care about, go ahead and take a look at that. All right, let me skip administrative procedures. This actually, it looks like it's going to stall and not make it through. It's stuck on the last committee stop and not on the floor, or not through third reading. So it hasn't passed through either chamber, and it's in the last committee in the Senate. So I don't think it's going to make it. It could possibly be brought up, voted on twice, and the Senate bill brought in somehow. But at this point, with 1 day left, this is looking very unlikely. The water and wastewater facility operator bill did pass. So this is a enlargement of kind of a reciprocity provision for license holders from other states to gain Florida license by reciprocity. So that's passed. There's a provision on water management district surplus lands that passed, and mangrove replanting and restoration is not going to pass. It's stuck. Didn't make it onto the floor, and so it's going to be dead. Biosolids passed. Sorry, skip back to this one. This is the Senate version. The House version passed and the Senate version was laid on the table. So this has been through both chambers, passed and enrolled. So if you care about biosolids, go ahead and take a look at this. And I think that is it. Everything else here is going to be dead. Yep, I've been through everything else, and they're not going to make it. So that's all the stuff. There's really maybe only that one bill that could make it through today, if you care about. I've even forgotten what it was. Go back and look at the recordings. There's really only one other bill on our list that could possibly pass today. Everything else is pretty much settled. So with that, happy to answer any questions.
Hey, Jeff, this is Alan.
Yes, sir.
First of all, thank you for all your hard work this session.
Of course.
It's like things have turned out pretty well. I had mentioned in my report this morning that that stormwater rule that everybody was worried about did not get ratified. You had predicted that long ago, but then I also noticed, I just saw it's an editorial out of Miami Herald that in last minute stuff, they put for those interested in water quality, they put language in the budget package that prohibits the local governments from limiting fertilizer use.
Oh,
And so there's 117, according to them, local governments, counties, and cities that have those types of rules, but could have an impact on water quality.
Alan, thanks for pointing that out. And for folks that don't observe this process to the level of detail that Alan does, there are lots of things that get added to what's called the back of the bill, the implementation bill for the budget, that can act like laws for at least the year that budget is being implemented. And every once in a while, some interesting little policy nuggets get thrown in there, and this sounds like one of those. So that's interesting.
Just
Somebody must have had a big beef.
Yeah,
about
just
a local.
the fertilizer industry.
Yeah.
Hey, Jeff, I can give an update on the stormwater rule.
Yes, sir.
John Coates is open to receiving language, alternative language, and he at some point will publish a notice of change. And so we didn't have to get JAPSI to reopen it. So the department is going to reopen it for discussions through the upcoming year, which is good.
That's very good.
Yeah, and Jeff, we'll follow up with you with more details on that. But there's a group of us that'll work and get Johnson language that he likes, that more people like.
Yeah, I'm very curious, because if he comes out with the notice of change, that's new language that would in workshopping, that's revised final rule language. So yes, I'm very curious to see what's in there.
Yeah, and I'd just like to say, yes, Jeff, you did point out that it wasn't going to be ratified, but we've also, thanks to your efforts, gotten from not even being included in the technical advisory committee to being asked to come up with the new language. So kudos to our team for that.
Okay, so just to be clear, because now I'm a little confused, is the notice of change to go ahead and publish modified language, or is it to
nothing yet? We're going to wait for session, give us some week, and we'll then.
Yeah, it'll be modified language, Jeff.
Okay, but it's not imminent. We've got time to work on it.
Yeah.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
This is Lynn Walker. I'm not sure if it's an environmental issue or not for this group, but do you have any information on Senate Bill 284? It's actually an energy bill about municipalities purchasing electric vehicles.
Oh, yes, I believe that passed. Let me confirm that real quick. What was the bill number, please?
I think it's 284.
Yes, that passed. Energy 284 by Broder. And its companion 1025 was laid on the table. Yes, so 284 will be headed to the governor's desk at some point.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions? Discussion? Criticisms?
Thank you, Jeff, for a good job.
I appreciate everybody.
Yeah, thank you, Jeff.
Thanks. Hope you all have a fantastic weekend. Go have a margarita at some point today.
So Jeff, just to clarify, this is the last of our environmental calls for this session. There will not be any follow-up. This is the last one.
That's right. And I think the next time we'll go over kind of any post-session activity will be on our next kind of regular standing committee meetings.
Terrific. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you,
Thank
Laura, for doing
you.
all the reports every week. Couldn't have done
My
it without
pleasure.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks,
All
everybody. Have a
right,
great
take care,
weekend.
everybody. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.